It is Locked On Jazz for November 16th. The Utah Jazz have lost 4 of their last 5. What has happened? We'll look at some of the issues, some of the little things, and we'll dig into the numbers that don't show us a lot. It's all coming up on today's edition of Locked On Jazz. Pow.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Give you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. You can subscribe by pushing that little button right there on YouTube and grabbing a hold and saying hello. And also hit that little bell that says that lets you subscribe, and then you can get notified when the show is. All right, what's wrong with our team? We've lost 4 of 5. Let's not kid ourselves. We've gotten absolutely hammered in both of them. I mean, I think that's if we're going to be honest about this and hold a conversation, and I apologize for no show yesterday. I was actually in Portland. I was supposed to pick up a new fun little camper van toy, and then when the water flooded through the top, we really couldn't take it. So that was not quite the day we expected. But if you look at Friday night or Thursday and Friday night, Thursday against Indiana, and you kind of run through that night, you know, we weren't particularly good, right? Like, there's no other way to say it. They were better than us. We got beat by TJ McConnell that night, which was kind of the disturbing. In the first half of the night, their offensive rating was a 120. In the second half, we tightened the ship a little bit, but, you know, frankly, it wasn't. It was not a close game, and we got manhandled. Then, so you really thought. And if you thought this, it was in my opinion, a completely reasonable thought that Saturday would come and the Jazz playing a team they had played a week before, a team that's number 1 in the NBA in first quarter scoring, a team you would, and all those things you would expect that the Jazz would come out like a ball of fire against Miami. And instead, the truth really is that the Jazz came out totally flat without any oomph. And really didn't play. And the game was, for all intents and purposes, over with 2 minutes left in the third quarter when it was 91-66. I'm not into that final. I get, you know, we can talk about the fight's good, but like, okay, I'm not into that. The Heat's rally, the Heat's offensive rating to that point was a 136 without Jimmy Butler. So I'm not here to minimize what we've seen the last few nights. It's been really bad. Do I think it dictates the season and the season's over, some catastrophic thing like that? No, but should it be putting up some significant alarms? Yes. They just weren't good. Like that, those were bad performances in circumstances in which you would assume you got better performances against teams that were lacking firepower that they shouldn't be able to do that to you. You know, the big picture is we strangely, I mean, we'll get into some kind of details here, but without like overdoing it, the strange thing that's going on is we have a collection of players who aren't playing very well, either together or individually. The beauty of what was the Utah Jazz last year was that collectively everyone had career years at the same time. And if we're honest about it right now, we're having a little bit of an opposite trend. If you look at the last 5 games, and I'm not going to dig in I don't think there's a lot of value. You follow the team, you're watching, you care, you're listening to this. There's not a great value of digging into each individual player. But if you look at the last 5 games where we're 4-5, there's just a lot of guys that aren't themselves, that aren't quite right. And even statistically, some of them seem like they might be kind of okay, but when you dig into the performance, it's not. And so that's the first spot where I would start. And that is, it doesn't feel to me like our guys are out there, what I would say is owning our space. In other words, teams are coming in to punk us. Teams are walking in the gym. They're going to try to get technical foul on Rudy. They're going to grab and hold and frustrate Rudy. They know he gets frustrated. They're going to hold and grab Joe. They're going to bump Boyan. They're going to try to physically overpower Mike. They're going to try to grab Donovan because we're elegant. We're beautiful. We move it. We play with it. We get, when we're rolling, we're devastatingly good. So you can't let us do that. So you hold, you grab, and we're not owning our space. The most telling of that was the first half against Indiana on the offensive glass. The next aspect of it was just guys getting dislodged. The most glaring, as much as I try not to isolate one player, was Bojan Bogdanovic holding the ball on the left side. And a Miami Heat player gets into him and literally just knocks the ball out of his hands and dislodges him from where he is. The ball goes out of bounds. It doesn't show up anywhere other than the fact that, like, Bojan just didn't hold his space. So that's just a toughness, a fight, a will, an energy, an attitude. You know, the Demi Avdija of the Wizards said about Montrezl Harrell, and the Wizards are number 1 seed in the East, I think, still. I've been playing since I was 16, and I've never had a guy who comes every night to kill. He's got a knife between his teeth. So I'm at Montrezl Harrell. We're not coming to kill. There's no aspect of us that's coming to kill. We're coming to dance. We're coming to wow. We're coming to perform. And we're not coming to kill. I don't know if we did last year. Having not been around the team every day, I can't really give that same contrast. But if you think of that analogy, and that Montrezl Harrell comes to kill, we don't come to kill. Right? I think that's fair. Maybe Donovan or Joe or Royce would disagree, but it doesn't look like we've been coming to kill. When a team gets 50% of the offensive rebounds and when someone owns the space on us that much. What's interesting offensively is we've all seen this for a little while, this feeling just of utter lack of cohesion. And yet, you know, still, we're the number 2 offense in the league right now. We're 11th defensively, which is disturbing. We'll get into it in a minute. We're still the number 2 offense in the league. We're still the 5th best effective field goal percentage team in the league because we're getting to the rim so much. We're still the number 2 offensive rebounding team, the number 1 free throw team. I'm not sure those are totally sustainable. That would be a little bit of my concern. Like, there is a level where early in the season numbers have to come back to the norm. And if you're too far off the norm, it seems unlikely. The league average of offensive rebounding right now is at 26%. We're at 31%. That to me seems a little high. The league average last year was 25%, and the league high was 29%. So the high anybody was 4% above league average. So that, again, that seems high. The year prior to that, the higher anybody was 3% above league average. And the year before that, in 18-19, the highest anybody was above league average was 3 or 4 percentage points above league average. The top teams in the league were 3 or 4 points above league average. Right now, we're sitting on a 25.7 and we're at 31. So we're about 5 above league average. That's going to come down. We're covering up our lack of shooting with our offensive rebounding rate. That we're going to lose one of those a game. That's about 1.5 points. That matters. Our free throw rate is the best in the league as well. It's 4 percentage points above league average, or 4 free throws per 100 field goal attempts. That's above league average. Last year, the best above league average was 2.6. So my point here is, even if you assume that we're going to continue to be the best there is in the game, we're too far above league average. Both those are going to come down. We better start shooting at some point here. But the offense doesn't seem to have the cohesion that we've said. All year long, we've talked about on this show, we don't have enough possessions to go around. And we've got to pass those around. Everyone's got to take a little less. Jordan's not taking less. Donovan's not taking less. And then it falls on everybody else to take less. I think that, and it's why throughout all last year, we saw, Bojan go in and out of stretches. We've seen Mike go in and out of stretches. I think that's the reality. If Rudy Gay comes back, that's going to be even more so because he shoots. He's a scorer. So there's a lot of, it's where Royce is so incredibly valuable to us. There's a lot of possessions that have to be grabbed. And I think that's leading to some of the lack of cohesion on that. We want guys to play free, but when everyone else is not getting their shots, it's it. There does seem to be an overall concept of trying to get Rudy the ball and do things with Rudy, and the end result is getting the ball less, and he's less productive than he has been. So I think that's part of it. All right. What's interesting, and maybe the one that's most concerning to me, is that Rudy's defensive impact seems to be way down. Now, the concept was that everybody else around Rudy was going to have a better year defensively than they did last year and that they did against the Clippers. I don't know if that's true. And I don't know if that's happening. So I tried to dig into some of the numbers, and I'll show you. I didn't find a lot. So that's what we're going to do next as we continue. Today's show, Tuesday edition of Locked On Jazz, is brought to you by Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street, also located in Logan and in Linden. Murdoch brings you the great SUV lineup, led off with the beautiful Palisade, followed by the Santa Fe, the Tucson, and the Kona. And then coming to you as well is the Sonata and the Elantra. The Elantra sedan won North American Car of the Year. I'm driving the Sonata right now, and if you're looking for a sedan, there's just nothing more you need in the market. We bought 2 Santa Fe's. They're all fabulous. What the Murdochs have done is decided they are not going to charge you more than MSRP for any circumstance at all. So you get that vow from them after 80 years in the market. They're not going to take advantage of this crazy market just to get an extra $5,000 out of you. So head over to Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street, also in Logan and in Linden. Feel free to email me first at dlock09@gmail.com. I'll set up the VIP meeting with you with our various guys at each of those places. Well, this is only appropriate that I'm reading this today because after sitting on a plane yesterday and a bunch of stuff, I need a Theragun about as badly as you get. Don't let the stress of daily life weigh down your body. Theragun is a handheld percussive therapy that relaxes your deepest muscle tension using scientifically calibrated combo of depth, speed, power. It's quiet as an electric toothbrush. I actually should use mine during the show, during this ad, just so I could justify using it. Doesn't just feel good. It relieves the tension, the source of pain. Using Theragun signature percussive therapy will go 60% deeper than vibration alone. Whether you want to treat your muscle tension from working out or injury or stress or just a tight lower back or bad hamstrings or no, this is all personal now. There's no substitute for the Theragun 4. The OLED screen and design make you feel like you're holding something from the future. Theragun is trusted by 250 sports professionals, Real Madrid, elite athletes like Paul George, DeAndre Hopkins, Maria Sharapova. Try Theragun for 30 days starting for $199. Go to therabody.com therabody.com/lockedon right now and get your Gen 4 Theragun today. That's therabody.com/lockedon to get your Theragun today. All right, so I did a bunch of numbers defensively, but what is clear right now is that Rudy Gobert's defensive impact is not what it was a year ago. The entire premise of what the Jazz team is built on is that when Rudy Gobert is on the floor, despite the defensive weaknesses of our other players and having them being offensive-minded, that we're going to be an elite defensive team. So far this year, when Rudy Gobert is on the floor defensively, we are in the 54th percentile defensively, middle of the pack. Now, when you dig into the numbers, this is contrast that, by the way. Last year, we were at 103.2 in the 98th percentile. So offense as a whole is down about 3 points per possession, and our defense when Rudy's on the floor is 4 points worse. Really, the way to say it is we've gone from 98th percentile to 54th percentile with Rudy on the floor as our center. So why? One, we're not defending the shot nearly as well. We're still not fouling, which is great. And we're not rebounding quite as well. What's interesting as you dig into this is if we go into defensive play context. So in the half court, when Rudy Gobert is on the floor, we're allowing 89.5 points per 100 possession. That's in the 63rd percentile. A year ago, when Rudy Gobert was on the floor defensively in the half court, I have to pull it up for you. We are at 87.7, so 2% and in the 97th percentile. So 2 points per 100 possessions, different in our half-court defense. Now, that's a difference, but it's not truly dramatic. What is dramatic is you start to look at our transition defense. Last year, we allowed 121.9, and we were in the 67th percentile of transition defense. In 21-22, so far this year, our transition defense with Rudy Gobert on the floor is allowing 123.6, again, 2% in the 32nd percentile. So we're down about 2.5 points per 100 possessions in transition defense. We're down about 2 points per possession or 2 points per 100 possessions in half-court defense. And we're allowing people to get into transition much more. So there's a lot of little factors here that are taking place, and they're all like little tiny pieces. One, teams are in transition 1 percentage point more times than they were before. So one extra transition possession. They're scoring 1 or 2 points a game more in transition. They're scoring 1 or 2 points more in the half court. And you start to add all these up and they become a big deal. It might just be overall, just lack of oomph. What's strange is when I dug into Rudy specifically, and this was before the Miami game, it's not dramatic. So last year, he contested 19.1 shots. This year, he's contesting 17.6. So 1.5 shots less. Okay, teams know that you cannot involve Rudy in the pick and roll. Teams know you cannot attack Rudy Gobert. It won't work. And so teams are building schemes to try to eliminate Rudy Gobert as much as possible. And then defensively, I'm not sure we're holding up our end of the bargain. Again, it's just these little tiny pieces. But teams are attacking Rudy about 1.5 shots less. He's contesting 1.5 shots less. Now, is that because Rudy's not getting out to him because they've spaced Rudy and he can't get back to him? Hard to tell just from the numbers. His impact last year was that players shot 7.6 percentage points below league average. It's now at -6, so just kind of 1 percentage point. Inside 6 feet, they're challenging him 1 less time per game. Last year, teams shot 16 percentage points below average. This year, they're shooting 14 percentage points below average. Pretty close. He's still massively important. What's interesting is when I dug into amount of picks, they're still running pick and rolls at him just as much, and they're still not good. This year, pick and roll defense, when Rudy Gobert's involved, is 0.81. Last year was 0.86. The year before was 0.89. He's incredible. What this says to me, one, we're missing more shots, and so teams are getting out in transition for a point or two more a game than they used to get. Two is that teams are trying to move Rudy, and he's impacting a shot or two less a game because they've moved him on the out. They're moving him. They're running their offense away from him. Everyone's game is to try to move Rudy and then move the ball and come attack away from Rudy. And at three, he's still world-class, one of the great defense players of all time against the pick and roll, and we're still defensively great against the pick and roll. So interestingly, it's that we're not actually seeing less of it than we used to. But teams are generally still can't do that. It's not as though we're having a catastrophic defensive meltdown to the level that even what we're used to be good at, we're no longer good at. What we're having is a defensive meltdown because teams are, one, we're missing shots, which is allowing teams to run. We're doing a bad job of getting back in transition. Excuse me. And then two, we're having a hard time. Teams are moving Rudy, and we're not impacting things as much. Lastly is the offensive rebounding. We're 26th in the league defending offensive rebounding. Teams are averaging 1.2 points per shot after an offensive rebound. And that's a killer. It's a point here, a point there, a point there. Leads us from going from number 1 to number 12 defensively. The offensive numbers don't really show either, which is really interesting. I'll share it with you next. I dug into where we're shooting, when we're shooting, how we're shooting, what types of shots we're getting. Interesting to see how similar they are to a year ago. The league shooting, by the way, is down from a year ago. It's not down from 2 years ago when there were fans in the crowd and when we were on a normal schedule. So that's a little bit. We're down, but the league's not. So that's a little bit of it all. Get your thoughts as well in the chat room, and I'll grab onto some of those as we continue. Today's show is brought to you by RockAuto.com. Our good friends at Rock Auto have been building a online auto store for you so that you can save money for over 20 years. For do-it-yourselfers, this family business is the answer. Why choose to spend 30, 50, even 100% more on some parts from chain stores or car dealerships? Save time and money using Rock Auto. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, and their prices are reliably low for every customer. Brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpets. We encourage you to discover your own car parts and discover how Rock Auto can help. Go explore their easy-to-use website today and find the solution. And when you check out, make sure you write Locked On in the How Did You Hear About Us section. That's Locked On in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Today's show is also brought to you by our partner, betonline.ag. They're back and better than ever, a new web interface for the start of basketball season, more props, more odds, more lines, the number one spot for all basketball and football and betting. And when you use the promo code Locked On, you get a 50% welcome bonus. 50% welcome bonus at betonline.ag. Early lines are out for next week. Probably the game of the week is Packers-Vikings? I don't know. Packers are 2.5-point favorite. In that one, Cardinals-Seahawks. Cardinals are 2.5-point favorite. Steelers-Chargers. Chargers are 4.5-point favorite. There. Tonight, Jazz get back at it against the 76ers, who as of right now are without Joel Embiid. And the Jazz are a 10-point favorite. Clippers are a 7.5-point favorite against the Spurs. And the Nets and the Warriors, NBA final matchup, doubt it, but possible. The Nets are a 3-point favorite. By the way, championship odds, Brooklyn plus 275, and then Lakers plus 675, Warriors plus 700, Jazz still the fourth most likely. And then on the conference, Lakers 320. Warriors are now ahead of the Lakers, 320 to 320. Warriors number one seed to win the West now. Lakers or Jazz are at 375. That's all at betonline.ag. Use the promo code Locked On to get 50% welcome bonus. Let's see what Jack has to say. I think everyone knows that when you rely so heavily on one player on defense, the other team will try to prepare and negate it. Not different when you rely on one offensive player. Probably true. Jack says, you may say effort. I say it looks like athleticism. Well, in transition, I think athleticism and lack of size is true. Jace wants to know what will Rudy Gay will change the roster. I think he's a little bigger than the player they'll be playing. He's a little bigger, a little longer. Skilled, 36, so not probably particularly athletic. Hopefully not on the wrong side. Here's what happens in aging in the NBA. So you have a spectrum from the peak to like being able to stay in the NBA. And then if you're on the downside and you're on the wrong side of NBA athleticism, you just don't play in the league. I don't care how good a shooter you are, how good at this you are. Duncan Robinson gets into the league because he's actually still a good enough athlete to be there. Kyle Korver, good enough athlete. There's guys who can shoot like Duncan Robinson, Kyle Korver. They just don't play in the league. They're either not big enough, not tall enough, not long enough, not athletic. You're just out. So there's a spectrum. And you have to be inside the spectrum to be able to play in the NBA. Guys like Rudy Gay and Joe Johnson and Vince Carter, who are on the peak of athleticism, as they age, they just walk down the spectrum. And they can still be effective players until one day they're suddenly on the wrong side, and then they're out like everybody else. For Carlos Boozer and Kyle Korver and players like that who are on the bottom end of the spectrum, the day they slip, they're actually just out of the spectrum. They're just out of it. And it's over crazy fast. And so what you see for Rudy Gay is he'll find a way to be productive because he's still in the realm of the athleticism that's needed to be an NBA player. And then he uses all those other skills and experiences and things that he's had. He's not going to change what we're watching right now. He's 36 years old, and what we're watching right now, I think, has to change in ways other than Rudy Gay. So I don't think he adds our skill level. He's another good basketball player. Good basketball players are important to have. He can shoot it better than Eric can. In that corner three, he's more of a threat. He'll space us a little bit more. He can play with the ball. He can post up a tiny bit. We'll see where he is defensively. But he is 36, so where he used to be on that end of the spectrum, he's now on the. And let's hope he hasn't, as Joe Johnson did very suddenly, fall on the wrong side of that. That's got to make sure we keep an eye on that. All right, here's an interesting one. So I broke down the shot clock by 6-second increments. 18 to 24, 12 to 18, 6 to 12, and then the last 6 seconds of the shot clock. And looked at our shots per 100 possessions to see if we were shooting differently than we were a year ago. In the first, per 100 possessions, in the first 6 seconds of the shot clock, last year we took 28 shots. This year we're taking 27. Same. In the next 6 seconds of the shot clock, last year we took 31. Now we're taking 32. So we've moved one shot from the first 6 seconds to the second 6 seconds. In that third one, so 6 to 12 left on the shot clock, we are at 16.7 last year, this year we're at 16.5. Same. And in the bottom 6 seconds of the shot clock, we are at 5.6 last year, we're at 5.7. We are literally taking our shots at the exact same time, every single spot. Now, QSQ is shot quality. Is our shot quality better or worse than it was a year ago? It's actually better. And in the first 6 seconds of the shot clock, it's 2 percentage points better. We're not making more. We're making 3.5 percentage points less, but our shot quality is actually 2 percentage points better. From 12 to 18, our shot quality is the exact same as it was a year ago. From 6 to 12, our shot quality is down 1 percentage point. Ironically enough, our shooting is actually better than shot quality. That's where we're shooting it best, is from 6 to 12. And then in our final 6 seconds of the shot clock, our shot quality is actually way up in the last 6 seconds of the shot clock. We're just not shooting it well. Interestingly, in the last 6 seconds of the shot clock, we take 70% of our shots as threes. So when we suddenly get late in the clock, we actually take more threes than we do earlier. In the first 6 seconds of the shot clock, we take 47% of our shots as threes. In the next 6, we take 52. Then the next, we take 50. And in the final 6 seconds of the shot clock, we take 70% of our shots as threes. We go to the rim more early in the shot clock. We're not actually just running for threes and not going to the rim. Like, the data doesn't show any of it. We're just missing shots. We're just collectively missing shots. And we're really bad in transition on offense too, which is weird. Last year, we were all right in transition. Shot the threes. We didn't get out in transition much, but we were good at it. This year, we're trying to get in transition more. We're not, and we're not good at it, which is strange. That one, I think, circles around. Of the 2 things we've talked about today, if I could give you a takeaway. Of the 2 things we've talked about today, the defensive thing to me is disturbing. That Rudy's impacting 1.5 shots less a game. That teams are shooting just a little bit better in those shots. That teams are altering the way they're doing things just a little bit against us. That they're prepared and they know it, that they're getting used to it. That they're running on us a little bit more. Now that goes away if we make shots. The shooting, I presume, comes back and we get back in line. Unless, did everyone get old at the exact same time? When you're building a championship caliber team, you're always on this weird precipice of trying to drag your guys to the finish line as wily veterans while simultaneously hope they don't fall off the cliff in aging. It would seem strange to me that all of our guys fell off at the same time. That seems unlikely. All right. Hopefully a good win tonight. Very, very difficult matchup against Toronto. Probably plays us better than anyone in the league with their athleticism on Thursday. Back to Sacramento, where you're trying to beat a 13 3 times in 30 days. None of these are easy. See what we can do. Postcast tonight after the game, pregame. Ron Boone and I will be on Instagram at DLock09 for you. Have a great one. Thanks very much for tuning in. It is Locked On Jazz, part of Locked On Podcast.